we wanted to bring together a small number of people who have a range of different experiences, perspectives, and talents to today. And I'm really pleased that you've been able to join us. The project runs for another 2.5 years. And what we're trying to do is get at as much as of an immersive mix of perspectives to think about users who are very different from the ones we normally encounter in Swansea or in London or in California. So users who have been described as emergent, people who are just getting their hands on technology, or resource constrained, people who don't have the same opportunity to access education or income or jobs, and to really get to see what their values are, what direction they would like technology to go in, and to work with them to shape possible futures. We're based in terms of the project here in Cape Town, in the UK, in India, Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore, and in Nairobi in Kenya. These users, these communities, have a number of constraints, and of course everyone who you meet and you would call an emergent user or a resource constrained user would be on a spectrum, and they're all people. So when we think about these groups, of course, and today, we need to keep in mind the fact that there's a wide spectrum of constraint and resource availability. We, I guess, have all had access to a smartphone maybe since 2007. 2007 would probably be the earliest. So coming up to 10 years of use. The interesting thing to me is that, forgetting who this phone is for, they are still basically just a computer squeezed into a box. So although we all think they are great and innovative, many of the notions, the concepts, the interaction styles are very similar to the files, the cutting and pasting, and the interactions that we would have had decades ago on computers. And those smartphones now are getting cheaper, so the technology obviously is coming into the hands of many new users, and that's really exciting. And I'm sure there'll be lots of smartphone innovations, like we saw with the dumb phone and the feature phone, that is going to benefit, entertain, provide jobs, provide employment for many of the people who currently don't have access to that data and services. So there's an opportunity for us to learn with very fresh perspectives from the emergent users to challenge what the notion of mobility is, the notion of do we really need to be carrying all of the device with us all of the time, and so on. So I hope that also comes out in your thinking today. So the traditional users like us, we tend to use these quite in a limited way, because we just look at the screen, it's textual, it's graphical, and we flick. There was a real hunger and an interesting set of design propositions in these communities around use of voice and use of gesture in interactions. So by having a conversation between emergent and traditional users, I think everyone will get a much more fresher, interesting set of innovation propositions to build on the next 5 to 10 years.
Like about 2/3 of Africans are young people, and what we're finding with young people is
affordability and availability were the real reasons people are using the technology. But it's not designed for them.
And that ties actually in some of the things that I was talking about with relation to resource constraints.
The skills need to exist inside of the community to build the technology. And so design is emergent from within the community. So then we're designing for us, not adopting and catching up.
All of a sudden it changes the way that we all interact with our devices, with information, and actually with each other.
Right. The mobile phone by itself could generate, maybe with movement or with solar or something, energy enough to keep on working by itself, because it's a very important thing in places where there is no electricity.
Mm-hmm. Especially when working with resource-constrained communities, you want to leverage more from existing devices So a lot of times my mindset is about, how can we improve things right now using devices that people already have.
So this time last year we were based in Bangalore, but we also had local teams here in Cape Town and also in Nairobi through our partner in IHAB. Working with those sets of community, there were a range of themes that came out. And we heard a couple of them in our discussions in the last half an hour. There was concern to have things that were hidden, hideable, wearable. There was a lot of concerns in the room around security, okay, and personal safety. So that clearly has shaped a lot of their perspectives and thinking around these future technologies. Something that struck me was the guys from each of those places saying, I will never get my mobile phone out basically when I'm mobile. Woo! I feel like mobility for me is, I've been living and breathing it since 1994, thinking early phones and WAP. And the whole point was that any moment I have a need, I will whip out my phone and I can solve my problem. That is not happening, as you know, I guess. In taxis, yes. In trains, no, absolutely not. In work during breaks, but more so in homes. Smartwatches were very, very strongly seen as an important part of their technology futures.
Why?
I'm not going to answer that. Why do you think, given what we've just been discussing?
Is that not in conflict with the idea that you can't take mobile devices out of public places?
Yeah, for security reasons.
Okay. One of the reasons that they felt a smartwatch or a smaller thing was useful is because they could take it out and look at it and glance at it or gesture with it or do something with it without having to take the big screen out. A theme that came out quite a lot was that if there is free Wi-Fi, we will go there because that will allow us to use some of our devices in new ways. In terms of the new interface styles, the main one which resonated was multi-screen. People really liked the idea of being able to connect to their TV, or groups of them, their families, connecting to one TV. So appropriating a screen with your mobile was seen as a very valuable set of interactions. VR was seen as interesting, mainly because it provided a bigger private space and a sense of richer screen real estate. If you've got a very small screen, the immersion you get, the experience you get with information is quite different to when we're sitting with our bigger screens. So we were keen to get a sense of what could it be used for, what doesn't it do? You know, what things does it provoke you to think about? So these were very much starting points for a conversation over the 2-day period.
Our discussion was around design needs to be needs-based first and foremost, because if you design something that isn't needs-based, that just has a lot of functionality, people are going to end up not using it.
If you're going to redesign the mobile phone, the first question you must be asking is what aspects of the mobile phone as we know it now don't work for you?
Once the design is built for a purpose, it will get used, it will get streamlined.
Don't look at the current product that are there, but think about the technology that you could use that is going to be useful for your daily lives.
Is it the fact that the phone is a handheld device? Is it the fact that the phone uses a screen, that it's run on battery? So ask yourself, what aspect of the phone as we know it now seems not to work?
You could think of a smart wearable for other applications. It doesn't just have to do with calling or texting. You could think about it in terms of how it could improve your health, your job opportunities, payment channels, even exploring the world.
And the idea of self-projecting phones, things that could project onto the floor, onto the wall, encourage much more collaboration. So you can have people stepping into things together or touching things together, which on a phone is too small.
And then I think, what I would like to stress is also don't be too serious. If you have a lot of serious discussion, you might not even come up with any better ideas than if you're, just have fun, have a laugh, be playful, and throw some ideas around and see what comes out.
And we're hoping that maybe in the future smart doesn't mean expensive, but rather means affordable, accessible, and usable.